Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. It is Wednesday today, and have a look outside. It's pretty grim and wet and rainy today, and for a change, rather than fretting about not being able to get round to the bees, I'm really grateful for a day off of working with the bees. I have been working non-stop on the bees out there, sometimes till 7:30 in the evening, and I'm kind of grateful for a day off to potter about in the shed, in the barn, and get a few jobs done and get a few errands done. Back to it again tomorrow, of course, as the weather improves enough to go into the bees. I would say in the last couple of weeks, the last week and a half, I've made about over 100 nukes. They're going to be ready for middle of May to the end of May, depending on whether they were a new queen or the overwintered queen. And then over the remainder of this week and then next week, I'll probably make another 100 nukes or so, which will be ready later May and getting into the beginning of June. So I usually have quite a bit of time between the time I make my nuke and the time I'm happy that they're ready for sale, as I always want a good quality product going out. The bees have been doing phenomenally well, and the various manipulations I've done have been very successful. Earlier in the season, I added a second box with frames of foundation and some drawn comb and honey for single brood chambers to move up to a double brood chamber, and in some cases for a double brood chamber to go into a triple brood chamber. Those boxes are fully occupied and loaded with bees, and now they're loaded with brood as well, and urgently in need of me to splitting them. The splits I've done so far, the few I've looked in, the very earliest ones, are looking good. Most of the queens have taken. I've got to do a little bit of balancing. With some hives have retained more of the bees than others, and so that's one of the reasons I wait a little while, because I've got to move some of the strength from the super strong nukes I've made to the less strong nukes I've made. So there's a lot of balancing to be done and juggling before they're ready to go. Also, the boosted hives that I had, where I took a single frame or two frames of bees with a good queen and a good laying pattern, putting them over newspaper and a queen excluder onto a larger hive, those have done extremely well as well. They've gone from having maybe half a frame of brood to two, maybe even 3 frames of brood in less than 2 weeks. So things are coming along really well. The growth has been phenomenal, and particularly early this year, probably because of the warm winter to some extent, but also the warm spring. And that's going to bring with it a lot of opportunity and a lot of problems. So this is what you should be aware of, at least here in Maine. The dandelion flow is on, so nectar is coming in, and I've already gone through at least a dozen colonies producing queen cells already. And so this is colonies that I have boosted to start with, so they might be a little bit ahead of the average bee colony, but if they're swarm cells now, they're certainly going to be out there. We're going to have a very early swarming season this year, and I think we're going to have quite an intensive one, because there's going to be a lot of folks that are just not used to seeing how quickly the colonies can really build up. So be aware, check your colonies, give them the room they need, and start looking for queen cells, because swarming is right upon us. I expect to get my first calls from swarms this week. It also means with early brood rearing by the bees, we're very likely to have higher mite counts than we normally have. So mites will be a bigger issue. I have seen, on the whole, low mite counts around the hive, but around my yards. But I have seen 1 or 2 colonies where the mites are a bit higher than I normally see this time of year. So be aware, get your mite sampling done, and and I fully expect to be needing to treat for mites earlier this season than I normally do. Normally, my first mite treatments are around the last week or 2 weeks of July. I fully expect that I'll be needing to do some mite treatments in June or July, early July this year. So be aware, keep an eye out, don't be caught unawares. You've been warned. So while I'm doing a few jobs around the indoors, I'm still getting more of my supers ready for further colony growth. I have some queens ready to go into nukes here, and while I'm at it, I have been melting down some bits of comb that I've been scraping off and that sort of thing. I'm afraid I'm cooking a few drone larvae, so it smells quite peculiar in this room. But this is what I'm looking to achieve, getting some wax out of those, and I've got a few more frames that need to be cleaned off. I found some that were outdoors and attacked by wax moths, and they're going to need some recoating. Speaking of wax moths, the larger wax moth seems to have done a bit of damage this last fall. I think it was just before it got really cold. Normally, we don't have issues with wax moths in Maine unless you've got supers which have been hanging around in warmer conditions over the winter. And that would usually be the smaller, lesser wax moth. But colonies that combs were exposed for what was a much warmer, longer fall than we've had, some people have lost their whole collection of honey supers due to the wax moths. So check your honey supers. Wax moths may have got in there and they may be doing damage. So far, when I first heard that, I went into my storage shed desperately hoping that I wouldn't find much damage. Unfortunately, that's the case so far. But keep an eye on your drawn comb, because wax moths can certainly do some damage to it. But I suspect most of the damage was done last fall before things got really cold. A lot of you will be waiting for the packages of bees, which will arrive very shortly. Right now, I'm being told that I should have them available for pickup by May 16th. So do keep an eye on my Facebook page, or expect a phone call or an email from me if you sent me those. Usually what I'll do is I'll let those who have come, who watch my Facebook page, I'll put a note when I have a firm day for pickup. I'll say, it's this day. Please please acknowledge below that you got this message. And for those people that didn't see that message, because they're not on Facebook or just didn't see the message, I will then email or phone. But it helps me a lot to get a response to those messages, because phoning 400 people takes me the best part of a day, and I can't afford that. So the more I can cut that list down, the better. Anybody who needs equipment on bee pickup day, it's be best to bear in mind that the initial few hours of bee pickup day are going to be pretty hectic, with a lot of people coming. When you do come, it will be important that you park sensibly and move your car up, and be prepared to move out as soon as you can so that people can get through. There is a park across the street with parking over there, so if you're planning to spend a bit of time and do some shopping, maybe it'd be a good idea to park across the street, as long as you don't have to carry too many things, of course. But do feel free to purchase things while you're here, but please be patient, as it'll take a while, and my priority will be getting people picking up bees in and out the door as quickly as possible. I have also had a few deliveries here as well, so I am now fully stocked up on woodenware again, and fully stocked up on bee suits and jackets, veils, gloves, helmets, all that sort of thing. So If you're needing equipment, don't hesitate to come along, but be prepared for a lot of people trying to do the same thing. Other things I'm looking forward to coming up this week is Friday the 7th of May, and that is the day that we did a video of making the Bee Whisperer Braggot, the honey beer, and that's going to be out and on the tap on May 7th. That's Friday, May 7th. So please feel free to come and join us at 2 Feet Brewing in Bangor. That's on Columbia Street in Bangor. Columbia Street's not very big, so you're not gonna get lost. So that's 2 Feet Brewing, Columbia Street in Bangor. We'll probably be there most of Friday evening. I think there'll be a fair few people coming in. So if you haven't tried a honey beer or a braggot, which is half beer, half mead, it's not sweet. It's a normal, quite drinkable beer. Please feel free to join us there. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.